Tonight's true scary story is literally like a movie. Like, I could not believe what I was reading. It is such a good story. I promise you I will cry while I tell this. You're gonna have to deal with it though, because I'm not doing a million takes. And when I got this submission, I was at the gym and I started bawling. I'm going to read this story in first person because I think that it is more heartfelt that way, and you guys will get the same experience that I did when I read it. And I think that's important. So here we go. We're gonna call today's submitter Jason, and he wanted to remain anonymous, but he started off the story by saying this: I don't know if anyone will believe me, and I haven't even told anyone outside of my family because of that. Honestly, most times I don't even believe it. I want so desperately for someone to believe me and to have also seen Little Men and Gnomes. I've been silent about it for so long just out of fear of being judged. And I'm not sure if this is spooky enough, and I'm sorry it's kind of long, but I feel like the backstory is important. And guys, it is. My grandpa's part of the story is more sad than scary, but my part of the story, which is the second half, I think is terrifying. Feel free to cut down any parts you feel necessary. And Jason, I'm cutting down no parts. I had a grandpa who was married a few times, had a bunch of kids with a bunch of different women, and ultimately abandoned them to live with his true love in the back country of Wisconsin, basically in the woods. Now, growing up, I had always heard stories of him, and my family always called him crazy grandman. The first 15 years of my life, all I really knew about him is that he had an obsession with garden gnomes and the supernatural. I heard stories like he had moved away to be with the gnomes, he was out of his mind, no one could help him. He even went missing for a week straight when he was a kid, and he was found in the woods 4 miles away from home, happy and healthy. No one ever knew what happened to him during that time. And because everyone made him seem like some mysterious creature that couldn't be helped, at the age of 16, I reached out to him, and I actually became really close with him. Up until this point in my life, I didn't believe in ghost stories or the supernatural. I just believed that people just mistook what they saw. One morning, we were sitting around the table, eating breakfast and just watching the birds, something that we had done often. We did this because we became really close, because I would visit him a lot. So on this morning, I asked him a question that I had been wanting to ask him this whole entire time. I said, "Grandpa, why do they call you crazy granddad?" He looked at me shocked, and I immediately started apologizing. I felt so bad. But then he looked at me and he said, "Let me tell you a story. And then when I'm done, you can decide whether you believe it or not." Here's his story, and this is exactly as is because I was actually recording the conversation. When I was a child, no one liked me. No one ever thought about me or cared for me. My parents were drunks. Miracle they had me, although I wish they hadn't. One day, my father beat me so bad I could barely stand. After it was done, I was laying on the floor. I heard a sound. It sounded like a mouse skittering across the floor, and then I looked up. I saw a shadow, about a foot tall, dash out of that door, through the hallway and out the front door. That was the first time I ever saw them. Then for 3 years, I only saw the shadows whenever I was beat bad. One day, I decided to follow it out the door, around the house and into the woods. I saw a tiny man peek across a tree. He was small, and his clothes blended in with the trees. This first time, I didn't follow him further. I just ran home. They didn't scare me much. I thought they wanted me to run away with them. But after that, I started playing in the woods talking to myself and getting lost. Parents never minded. Never knew if they even knew I was missing ever. But they sure did notice what happened in that house. Out in those there woods, I would find bottle caps and trinkets, mostly rusty junk at bases of trees. One day I woke up at pitch black night. Most days we didn't have power in the house, but you get used to it. I saw that little man standing in the kitchen. Didn't make much sense to me, but I know now. He just stood there the first time I ever seen him in full view, and those suckers are fast. Very fast. It bolted right out the door. We ain't have locks, you know. The porch door had that hole. Mice and shit kept coming in. But anyways, that morning my mom threw a fit. Her spoons were missing, and there was mud all about the kitchen, on the floors, on our table, on the dish. She said it was me, but I knew better than that. It was the little man, but no one ever believed me. I was in more trouble than donkey. These little men kept coming to my house and making a mess, and I would get beat for it. Almost started to hate them at one point. Then my parents passed, I took over the home, had your aunts and uncles. Not much there. The little men would be there sometimes, but only as shadows. And those gals I had them kids with always left me. They hated the mess. And my house. Well, it was always a mess. Never tried to tell them it wasn't me. Ain't no point. Who'd believe it? I didn't believe it sometimes, you know? We didn't go to the doctor when I was young. No money, no medicine. Maybe I should have, but my mind's far too gone now. Not gonna do me much good now. Shame. When I was 43, I met a woman, and she was nice. Awfully big, but nice to me. So I married her and moved out here. We lived together. She never cussed at me for the messes. She was real nice like that, you know? Real good woman. Big, but good. That's what you want in a woman. Hell of a cook, too. But she passed away 5 years after we moved here. The little men liked her, too. They didn't touch her stuff. She made that garden. Real beautiful garden. Real shame she couldn't grow nothing. She didn't have a green thumb, that's for sure. The little men loved her, too. Missing earrings would show up. She lost her wedding ring down the sink. Damn shame, that ring was almost $300. I always did regret spending that much money on a ring. Could've gave her a cheap one. She liked to laugh. She didn't like expensive things. That's why I loved her. Oh, and that ring showed back up in her shoe, too. She didn't ever question it. She never questioned me. I do think she loved me. Never asked her, though. Where was I? Oh, well anyways, these little men were real sore when she passed. They messed up my house like something crazy. I saw them more too, mostly in shadows or behind the couch. Never bothered me much. My friend and I went fishing. He got me a camera once to take pictures of them, but my fingers were too big to hit the buttons. Well, one day it went missing. I didn't like electronics, I didn't care. But that yard there was their favorite spot. I told her, let's come out into the woods. I always liked the woods. Those little men would run out into the woods and I would follow. Staying out of the house saved me from a lot of beatings. I like to think they like me. That yard, I see them. I see them lots. They like her garden. I try to take care of it. It's the last thing we have of hers. Your uncles, yeah. They never liked me neither. They thought I was crazy. Ain't no tiny man gonna show themselves to you if you ain't believing them. I'll tell you that. I said, fuck them all. Took my girl out here to be with them. That's why we leave the back door open so they can come in, take my stuff. Ungrateful little shits. But they find my glasses. They're my family. You got me talking about myself too long. Turn that thing off. We sat in silence for a while after that, and I actually found myself believing him. He told me stories of his childhood, and we grew really close, although he never talked about his disappearance. It's like he didn't remember being missing, and honestly, as crazy as it is, I saw those shadows in the backyard. We did this for 8 years. Visiting, talking, taking care of his house. I would do repairs. I did maintenance of the place. I did the upkeep of the backyard. I turned that garden into a flourishing vegetable paradise. It was nice until one day he fell and everything changed. I was 24 and I didn't have much going for me in my hometown, so I moved in with him and I took care of him for the last 2 years of his life. Now this part is my scary story. One morning, I woke up at like 2:30 a.m. and I never really woke up before my alarm, like ever. I was a heavy sleeper and I was so tired that night, I just rolled back over. But something was wrong and it was the strangest feeling I had ever felt before. It was like I was being watched. It was like I thought somebody broke into the house. I don't know why, because I couldn't hear anything, but you probably know that feeling of like something not being right. So I got up and I found my slippers. I wasn't worried or panicked. I mean, what were the chances someone broke in? We were in the middle of nowhere in the back country of Wisconsin. I reached for the door handle and my stomach just dropped. The room was pitch black. I could barely see my bed, and I am running straight off nerves at this point. So I swing the door open really fast to try to shock like whatever might be on the other side. There was nothing. Nothing was there, so I went down the hall. The house was also pitch black, except for some moonlight coming through the windows. So the house was set up like this. 2 bedrooms at the end, 1 hallway, and 1 bedroom at the other end. So you could stand in 1 bedroom and see across the hallway to the other bedroom. But I see that at the end of the hallway, my grandpa's door is cracked open. Normally he liked to sleep with his door closed. Made him feel safer, I don't know. But the door was cracked open and there was a tiny bit of light shining through the room. He had a reading light that he didn't really use anymore, but just out of habit would turn it on. He would turn it on before bed and then forget to turn it off. I didn't really think anything of it, but I started to sweep around the house. The kitchen was fine, nothing out of place, living room was good. Doors to the bathroom and spare bedroom were closed. Everything seemed to be in place. So I turned to peek out in the backyard because I just assumed that maybe there was a raccoon making noise out there or something. But it seemed normal. The garden was undisturbed. The little lights were illuminating the garden gnomes and the little rocks I had painted. But then I saw it. A shadow that dashed across the yard faster than I had ever seen anything move in my life. I immediately felt exposed and unsafe. I had never felt that way in my entire life. Pure terror. I almost peed my pants. It was super hard to see also. The tiny lights we had out there did not help much. I squinted to try to see through the bushes where the shadow had gone, but I couldn't see anything. There was no way it was a deer, a raccoon, or a squirrel. It moved too fast, way too fast. I didn't know what to expect. I was just standing there, shaking. Then I heard a noise. It sounded like something running across the hallway. I whipped around as fast as I could. Didn't see anything. I thought I was losing my mind. It was enough that I saw shadows darting in the backyard. But in my house, fuck that. I don't know what came over me, but I ran to go see what it was. I ran across the living room into the hallway, nothing, just darkness. My bedroom door was open and it looked like a portal to the underworld. There was no light. It was pitch black, like a void. And then I saw it. I saw it for the first time and the last time I would ever see it. A tiny man peeking out at me from the kitchen island. I stopped dead in my tracks. My heart stopped. Everything inside of me was screaming to run away. I stood there frozen, staring at him. And then I blinked, and then he was gone. It was maybe 5 seconds. It felt like 10 minutes. There's no way, right? There's no way. I thought I was just tired. It couldn't be real. My heart was in my ass. After a while, I decided I was just tired. I would deal with it in the morning. So I just went down the hall into my grandfather's room to turn off the light, creaked the door open, and went into his room. This was the night that my grandfather passed away. When I stepped into his room, I knew he was gone. But I still turned the light off, and I closed the door like he likes it. And then I went into the living room. I called the police. I don't remember much from that night. But I do know that when I left his room, I felt peace. Almost like it was okay that he was gone. He was in a better place now. I don't know why I felt peace instead of sadness. I truly believe those little men knew he was going to pass away. Or had passed. So they came back one last time to say goodbye. And that was the only time I ever saw him. I ended up keeping that house. And now I'm married to a woman who loves to laugh, and I couldn't be happier. We have a son now, and he loves to play in the backyard. All of the activity stopped in the house. I never saw those shadows or heard the skittering again, but my son talks about it sometimes, and I gotta be honest, I'm worried that they're targeting him now. He's young, so it could be his imagination, I guess, but I won't make him feel crazy if he tells me he sees something. I worry that these little men drove my grandpa crazy. And I'm worried about my son's safety now. We don't hit or yell or anything violent in our house. And the way my grandfather talked, it seemed like those little men were getting him out of the house and away from a violent situation. I don't know if it's just a kid thing, because you know, some kids see ghosts. But when he's older, I'll tell him stories of his grandfather. That's the end, guys. Am I the only one that cried? I tried saying that last line like without crying so many times. I couldn't do it, guys. I don't have fucking time for that. That story was like a movie. Like, when I was at the gym when I read that story, and I was crying hysterically at the gym. Like, I was doing legs, just like, people were probably like, that lady's fucking insane. But I don't know if you guys thought that story was creepy, or if you thought that it was heartfelt, or if you thought that like parts of it were. All I know is that I loved this story so much, and that I want Jason to know that I believe you, Jason. I believe every single word, and I'm so sorry that you lost your grandfather, and I'm so sorry that he experienced all of that stuff when he was younger and that no one believed him. But you know what? Thank God you were there for him. You were there for him in such a hard time in his life, and you probably saved him in so many ways, and I hope that you know that. You were a wonderful grandson, and he was so lucky to have you. And it matters that in the end you were able to see what he saw. So also, you guys, that was supposed to be a Wisconsin accent, and I'm actually pretty good at Wisconsin accents, but for some reason a southern drawl came out, and I'm also terrible at southern accents, so that might have been the worst story I've ever told. It could have been, I don't know. You guys can let me know how I did on that, because I tried. I thought that that would be the best way to tell it. But if you guys like this story, it took me a while to tell it. I would really, really appreciate it if you hit that like button. If you guys have anything to say to Jason, it would be really great if you could show him some love, because he really wanted us to hear this, and he wanted someone to believe him so badly. So thank you, Jason, for that story. Guys, I'm going to do my shout outs now. Shout out is going to Dean20221, and you already know why, and I'm gonna freaking cry again. This is just an emotional day for me, I guess. Your comment meant so much to me, you have no idea. I told you how I felt in the comments. I'm so glad you are safe and happy and healthy. Seriously, I'm so happy for you. Congratulations on your sobriety. That is everything. You are amazing. Keep at it. We are in this together. My second shout out is going to Daisy_FT5TB. I think I got those last letters right. You know who you are. You said I was the sweetest girl on TT and YouTube. That meant so much to me. Thank you for saying that. That was such a nice comment. I really appreciate that so much. You guys, I swear I wouldn't have this platform without you guys, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am, and I truly, truly mean that so much. I just love you guys. With that being said, I do need you to do 3 things for me tonight. The first one is YouTube. You have got to start sending me some stories. Seriously, I get them all from TT. We need some stories from YouTube. And the second thing is, have a safe night. And what's the third thing? Say it with me. Have a spooky night. Love you guys. See you in the next one.